What is up, you guys? We are live. Welcome back to another jam-packed episode of the Rookies of the Year. It's me and Josh today. Rob's got the day off. Took a week off last week, but we're back. Know you guys are excited to tune in. We're going to talk a little bit of the NBA landscape. We got a lot of free agency moves. We had a Shams bomb this morning as soon as I opened my eyes. We're going to talk a little bit about next year for the NBA. We're going to talk a little bit about Mike Brown. We'll have a couple NFL topics to touch on, but it'll be a fun show. So let's start with the Shams bomb this morning. Move Norman Powell to the Miami Heat, John Collins to the Clippers. Pat Riley woke up. Sleepy Pat. Finally, he woke up from his hibernation and wanted to make a move today. Goes out and gets Norman Powell. What do you think of this move, Josh? Do you think this is the missing scorer that Miami might need to maybe actually make a push in the East this year?
So I'm not sure if this is going to be that blockbuster move that Heat fans have been looking for the past few seasons. Maybe. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Dame is still on the table, so that still could feasibly happen. But they should feel really, really good about this. This was absolutely a fleece. I've got some buddies who are definitely cheering this on. Norm is a fantastic scorer. I mean, he was an all-star last season. We know he scores at all three levels well. Looked pretty solid in the playoffs against Denver as well. I think he'll be very impactful for the Heat, and he'll pair well with Wiggins, in my opinion. I think it'll be a pretty strong wing unit, as well as with Jovic and Hawkes. So I expect Miami to be in the mix again next year. I mean, they have a pretty solid core that they've been trying to build around for a few years now. So I like that he's mixing it up. I like the move they made. I don't really see what the Clippers are doing unless they think they have Beal signed as well, which maybe Beal and Collins is better than Powell. I don't really know. But overall, don't know what the Jazz are doing. They're full rebuild mode, I'm assuming. Heat, I like the move for them, at least until they can maybe bring in another big name. And then, Clippers are going to Clippers.
Yeah, you bring in a guy who can actually create his own shot and shoot off the dribble and be a catch and shoot guy, which I don't think they really had. You move Tyler Hero to the point guard position, which I think last year he really surprised a lot of people with just how well he was being able to just run that offense. I didn't think Tyler Hero was all that, and there were so many times that he was in those trade talks, and I was like, nobody's going to want Tyler Hero in return for their superstar. But I look crazy now. He proved me wrong. Wanted him on the Celtics, so I've hated him ever since he wasn't on the Celtics. But yeah, I think it's a really good move. Like you said, with Wiggins, Tyler Hero, and then you have Norman Powell. That's pretty good. And then you have Bam, and you have Khalil Ware in there. That's a solid team.
Hawkes, they're deep. That's a pretty deep team
for sure.
So,
and you have Eric Spoelstra at the helm.
Yeah,
hopefully he can beat some washed allegations that he had last year. A lot of Heat fans were kind of upset about the rotations that he was running out there. But yeah, I think Miami got better. I think they might have squeaked out of a play-in position this year. Maybe they're like a 6 or 5 seed, back to where we usually see the Miami Heat, and then just give them a chance in the playoffs. And you never know what can happen down there in Miami. But I think it's a good move. What do you and you kind of touched on the Clippers. What do you think about? Do you think the Clippers made the right call by swapping Powell for John Collins? Because they kind of just have been adding front court stuff with. You had, who did they get? Brook Lopez, and then you get Powell.
They re-signed
two different
Harden
players,
too.
But yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, they re-signed Harden too. Was I think what you were looking for, but as far as I'm concerned, the Clippers can continue with whatever they're doing. I think we have a couple more picks. We, as in Oklahoma City, so.
Yeah.
As long as they continue to be mid, or
I think they'll be solid this year. I think Brook Lopez was a pretty good pickup. I think John Collins is a good pickup, even though they already have Zubac, who's a really good center. But
I love Brolo, but I think he's fading out. I do think he will be a good backup to Zubac. I agree with you. Zubac, I do think is very talented. Um, I think they're banking way too much on Harden and Kawhi's health here. That Norm Powell, granted, he has his health issues as well, but he was a much needed scorer at times when Kawhi was out last year.
yeah, he was carrying.
Yeah, I think that's something that Brooke Lopez and John Collins are going to struggle to give you in return. So
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, those
um,
John Collins pick and rolls with Harden, though. Him just either he could shoot in the corner, he's a good rim roller, play above the rim. And then I think Brooke Lopez is like a floor stretcher, and he kind of just opens up the defense a little bit for guys like Harden and Kawhi to just kind of pick their spots and get to where they want to go.
mhm.
But I think LA needed to make some front court adjustments. I think Zubac was he was really good defensively, but offensively, I don't think he was giving you too much. Obviously, he's a really great rebounder, but I think they did well. They were pretty guard heavy, and then now they make some moves in the front court to get some a little bit more depth. I kind of like the move for the Clippers, and I think the Clippers are always going to have a chance when you have Kawhi, who can go on a run like we saw in 2019 in Toronto, because that guy, he's a robot, like everybody says. He's great on defense. He's a great scorer. Gets to a great mid-range shooter, one of the best mid-range shooters in all the NBA and NBA history. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to work as long as Anthony Edwards doesn't destroy John Collins on another posterizing dunk. I think he's going to be fine in the Clippers.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I think Norm Powell is going to be a very significant loss for that franchise. And like I said, maybe Beal makes up for it. I do think, like you said, they're both going to be good for stretching the floor. John Collins, we know, can jump out the gym sometimes, but it's going to be they gotta mold. Team has to mold, but they do have good pieces. I do think Chris Dunn is pretty solid too, at least defensively.
I think Collins is going to fit into that, like what Derek Jones Jr. was for them like a few years ago. Like, a guy who's just going to be able to knock down threes, do the dirty work on rebounding and defense and stuff like that.
Derek Jones is still with them, right?
Is he?
I think so. I think that's
Okay.
where he is right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's like
But-
bigger Derek Jones.
Right. Exactly. Just another guy that fits that mold that just needs to do the dirty work that Harden's not going to do. All right, let's move on to we're gonna stay basketball. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Knicks. They go and get Mike Brown. Some major changes there. Get rid of Tibbs. You bring in Mike Brown. What do you think of that move? Is he gonna bring them to the finals? That's also a big thing. That's why you get rid of Tibbs, because he didn't bring you to the finals.
Right. I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's going to energize the team. I think it's going to be a much needed change in terms of coaching. They're going to retain a lot of Thibodeau's staff, so I think a lot of like the things that the team liked is going to stay. Like I know Rick Brunson's going to stay. That's the bottom line. But beyond that, like I think the team identity that they liked and some of the traits that they liked from Thibodeau's staff are going to stay while they pull new ideas and new techniques with Mike Brown. Mike Brown, he's a solid coach. I think how good he is very situation dependent. I thought really any coach could coach this New York situation well, but Thibodeau did a pretty good job of shooting his team in the foot at times. So I think it's a good change. I think they can make the finals. They were very close last year. And with the addition of Clarkson, I think he's going to be a good spark off the bench for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to be seeing a very energized Knicks squad next year.
Yeah, I mean, he had Mike Brown. He's been in the league for a long time, was with the Cavs, with the Warriors staff, and then he's on the Kings. And I think the Kings kind of did him dirty a couple of years ago too, after he had basically changed that franchise and gave them the spark that they hadn't had in so many years because they were a
Right.
laughing stock of the NBA for forever. Them and the Sixers were like the worst two teams, and they have great fans. Sacramento
Yeah.
does. I think they hated to see Mike Brown go, and guys like Fox. Once you saw Mike Brown go, you knew Fox was going to be out right after that because that was his guy as well. But I think as long as they keep that defensive identity, I think as if they keep, we'll talk on this after. If they start expanding the bench and they get more sparks from other guys, not just Brunson having to drop 30 and or Cat having to drop 30, but I think Mike Brown is going to give them with the experience that he has, I think he has a little bit more championship DNA than somebody like Thibodeau. So I think you have a little bit more confidence in him if you are making a finals run with Mike Brown, just because he's been on some great teams and with some great coaches and had great players that he's coached and had on his team. But do I think the Knicks make the finals next year? No, I don't think it's exactly what New York fans think that just because Boston's there that they're are not there possibly next year that they're just going to ease their way into a finals run. When you're getting knocked out by the Pacers, you kind of it's not as easy as you might maybe had seemed that it was to make a finals run. But do you think that Mike Brown is going to be able to? You got a few young guys. You got and bench players. Do you think he's going to trust those guys to be able to have an impact on this team? Because I think he did really good at that when he was in Sacramento with like guys like Keegan Murray, Davion Mitchell, stuff like that.
Absolutely. Those were the exact guys I was going to mention, as well as tossing Keon Ellis as well in that mix. Those guys and Trey Lyles as well, I believe, all got the nod from Mike Brown to play significant roles for that team, and they did well to deliver most of the time, at least when I've watched them. I've watched a fair amount of Sacramento games over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, hoping they're good for their fans and for that franchise. I think that he's going to utilize some of those bench players that haven't seen as much time, that haven't seen as many reps, and I think that he might be able to unlock maybe not even like a player that's going to be a huge minutes guy in the playoffs, but his skill set's going to be unlocked with Mike Brown, whereas Thibodeau was kind of going to overlook that and just go to his normal guys for the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
So I like the change for New York. I think Knicks fans should be optimistic. I'm a little bit more optimistic than you. Granted, I was against the Pacers and in their run this year, but I think they have a pretty good shot this year. The Magic might give them a good run.
Yeah, they haven't really changed
Detroit,
much.
maybe.
Some people were calling for like Josh Hart's head or Cat's head, and they've kind of stuck to their guns, and they're just going to switch. Yeah, they're going to switch the coaching, and they're going to run it back next year, and they probably have the best odds out of any team in the East. Them and the Cavs, because the Cavs just keep. Yeah, the Cavs just keep on freaking choking in the playoffs, but we'll see if they do it next year. But yeah, I think he's going to do a good job in expanding that bench. But at the end of the day, you guys, he's got to get Cat to play defense. He's got to get Brunson to play defense, and he's got to have some different looks on offense than just Jalen Brunson holding the ball for 15 seconds and just running iso ball. So I'm interested in that. If you see like some good sets at the beginning of the year of them defensively and them offensively, then I think that I might trust Mike Brown and I might trust the Knicks to make a finals run. But we both were like, Tom Thibodeau is going to be the cancer that brings this whole team down all playoffs last year. And it actually happened right before our eyes. And he just got outcoached by Rick Carlisle. All right, let's move into free agency. It was a fun week of free agency. It was a little bit of a frenzy. Free agency in the NBA is always wild. Always that kind of first week of July gives us a little bit of sports talk, which is usually a quiet sports week. It's just usually baseball. But all right, who is your biggest steal of free agency?
So I might have missed the mark on this question because I honestly have a lot. My first one might come as a surprise to you and Rob. You guys are way less optimistic about it than I am. But Anthony Simons, I really liked that trade for you guys.
Yeah.
He's very streaky, but the kid plays like a Dame Light with some bounce. And if he locks in on defense, if he tries, I don't think he'll necessarily be a good defender, but he could be an all right defender for sure. Because he has the length and he has the athleticism to do it. He's gotten exponentially better each year. To me, when he first kind of came into the league, I think through like maybe the G League or saw a lot of time in the G League. I thought he was just going to be like a dunk contest contestant, and then he really made a name for himself. He started learning from Dame a lot. He trained hard. He's a good scorer, and I think he's the youth that you guys need. I think he's kind of in the perfect time frame where he has some maturity and he has some years under his belt. And he is a good scoring guard that I think once JT comes back, I think he'll pair very, very well with JT and Derek White and Jaylen Brown. Excuse me.
I know what you meant.
Yeah. But I think that's a good acquisition for you guys, and I like to see you guys keep them. Second one going on is going to be Cam Whitmore. I repping the Wizards hoodie today.
You keep getting young guys for that core. I really like it too.
I love it. I love what they're doing over there. I like Middleton. McCollum's pretty solid too. Longtime Trailblazer guy.
They'll get off some of those big contracts here soon, and they're going to be good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll shed that Middleton contract. They'll shed that McCollum contract, or maybe even trade one of them. And I think they'll be sitting pretty in the next year or two if they get another good pick. Yeah. I think good pick: Cam Whitmore, Bilal, Alex Sarr, and that's just like the tip of the spear. They got Bub, Kaishan, and like a bunch more guys that. They don't work out. They got more picks, and they got like 12 young guys to try out in the rotation. So I like that acquisition, and then the KD trade for obvious reasons. Signing wise, I'm gonna have to say Miles Turner for the Bucks. I really like as a replacement for Brolo. Much younger, a little bit more athletic. I think he can maybe stay with Giannis. I think the Bucks window for championship, you're not going to like this, is going to reopen right around your guys'. It's going to be like the year after once that Dame contract comes off the books. Giannis is just so ridiculously talented that him and Miles Turner alone with scrubs, I feel like are going to be close to a playoff team. With another good piece, I think they'll absolutely be in the mix for the play-ins at the very least. And back into the scene for contention if they actually build around him. So I like that move for the Bucks. Signing wise, I also would say that the Pistons did a pretty good job. They got a couple of shooters. I like their additions. They might not pan out. Got LeVert and Duncan Robinson, I think, but it's better than what they had last year, and they were severely lacking in shooting. So what about you?
Hopefully those two guys aren't placing bets and just being I don't know how to call it, but hopefully they're not impact. You know what I mean? Like
positive impact just dropping.
He's just worried about his parlays and worried about everybody getting their shots because he's got bets to hit. My guy is Brook Lopez. I've always liked Brook Lopez, and I thought he would be a great addition for the Celtics. I think that they got him for a steal at basically $9 million a year. I think that's the biggest thing with the NBA right now, just because obviously I'm a Celtics fan, and I think that this tax situation has been a humongous issue for a lot of these teams to be able to not overpay for these guys and to actually have really good contracts on your team. And I think that's super valuable in this day and age, because there's so many times that we were like, why is this guy getting $50 million? Why is this guy getting paid $30 million? And now you see it. It's hurting these teams, and they're getting in the second apron, and they're going to have to do a little bit more roster management than just putting the best squad together and just paying everybody. But I think Brook Lopez is going to be a guy, like I said earlier, who's just going to space the floor. He kind of he's not a great defender, but he's decent at defending. And I think that off the bench, I don't think he's going to start, but I think off the bench he's going to be a really good player. But just that you have a lot of veterans on that team, and I think that he's going to be fit right in. And as long as Kawhi and Harden stay healthy, I think he's going to have a really good fit on that team. You were talking about Simons for a little bit there. A lot of Celtics fans are wondering what's the deal with this move. He's on an expiring contract. We basically get 1 year. I think some people want us to move off of him, maybe try to get a little bit more pieces for him. But like you said, I think he can fit right into this team and give us a chance to compete next year. If with the Derek White, Anthony Simons, Jalen Brown, I don't think that's a bad 3 guys to run out there. And they all fit the system. I think Simons is going to be another guy that shooting the rock. We're going to be another team that are going to be the same team that's shooting 53 pointers a game because he's leading the league in 3-point attempts. He's shooting like 9, 10 a game.
Yeah.
So I think that fit is going to be seamless. I think if it's not working out halfway through the year, you obviously just dump him and you try to get what you can for him. But if it's working out at that trade deadline time, you try to negotiate a good contract, a good team-friendly contract that will. I know he's thought he was going to be getting paid Dame numbers, but I don't think it's going to work like that anymore. But I think he could be a franchise role player. I don't think he's a cornerstone guy like Derek White and Jalen Brown, but we'll see. We'll give him a chance. And Boston loves a guy who can just light it up at the 3-point line, and he might be able to just fit right in. So I'm excited for him. I'm glad you get rid of Drew at 30-something years old, making $30 million a year. That's a crazy contract for a team that's not really trying to make a championship run next year. So you kind of got to move off of that and get a player that's more fit for your timeline in the next few years. And I don't know if you saw JT, he's already walking in the pool, but he's going to make we might have Dame in there too, and he might have a little rehab buddy. And yeah, you don't like that?
You think Dame's going to sign with the Celtics?
I think there's a chance. I think there's a very good chance.
I think he will be taking his talents to South Beach, if anything. I think that's where his heart lies, but I guess we'll see.
He wants
but
to
yes, that would surprise me a little bit. I would not want that if I were you. I'd be like, oh my goodness, who's the only defender who could possibly be much worse than Anthony Simons? It'd be Trae Young, but only a little bit better than him is Dame. So
we'll see off this Achilles injury if he thinks he's still a star player. I think his role is going to be a bench off the bench scorer now. Honestly, I don't think he's going to be that starting cornerstone piece that he's going to be shooting 15, 20 shots every single game. I think he's going to have to be more in that role player aspect of things now. At that age, coming off an Achilles injury, if you want to stay in the league, you can't just, like you said, he's a liability on defense. I think you put him on a bench role with Pritchard, them two just lighting it up when Derek White and Jalen Brown are on the floor, and JT. But it kind of just gives us a little bit more depth. But I think he's going to enjoy Boston. There's been a lot of reports that he's very interested in teaming up with Jason Tatum in their rehab assignment, and might want to play for Boston. And if he's on a cheap contract, because we could use him for an exception because he got bought out, and he's basically not having any impact on the cap, I think you just bring him in. I don't think it's a bad move.
I think he's a big question mark right now, but in the role you suggest, I don't think he's a bad move either. He would absolutely be one of the best microwave scorers in the league, like Lou Will to an extreme. So I would like the move for you guys as well, but I would also be cautious of what he's asking for role wise and money wise. Especially, like I said, I would just prefer Simons myself. So
yeah, that's true.
Even if Simons has a bad year next year, oh no, then you don't have to pay him nearly as much, and he might have his bounce back year the year after. So whereas I guess not bounce back, but like breakout year the year after. So Who's to say? Especially in Boston, you guys are by far the best team he's ever had. So I think it'll be interesting. And you guys, like you said, he fits your system perfectly. So
Yeah, we'll see what Brad Stevens does. I think he's done a really good job so far this offseason is at not overreacting at the Tatum injury and just kind of taking things slow and just know that it's not going to be all peaches and butterflies and all beautiful next year. Like it's going to be a tough season. Like we're going to be competing in some games. We're going to have fun. I'm a real Celtics fan. I'm still going to be watching this team even though they're not the best team in the league. So I'm not going to be like a fair weather. What'd you say?
So I'd be excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for
See how they can hold it down.
Yeah, for a new era. I was really a big KP fan and big Drew fan. Both really super nice guys. Like I was in the kind of tunnel area for a Magic game, and both of those guys just come up and they're just so like loved by the fans, and they love just interacting with the fans. And I was like, one day I was like, Drew, how's the hamstring feeling? He's like, I'm not going tonight. He's like, it's not feeling good. So yeah, literally right to my face. And me and Rob were both right next to each other. And it was a great memory to just be able to two-time NBA champion, one of the best NBA guards defensively of all time. And these guys are super down to earth. And the way that KP was really just a big fan favorite and the way that he interacted with the fans, we're going to miss that, but we'll always remember it. Tatum looked great in that towel. I remember that. So we were right there in the tunnel, locker rooms to the right. Shower, you could see like the shower area and the door. Tatum comes off of his little pregame workout. We see him walk into the locker room, and next thing you know, we see him going in the shower and he's walking out with the towel on. And me and Rob kind of like dropped our mouth. We were so excited to see it. We were mouth watering.
I believe it, and I'm not surprised our producer was extremely interested in that.
Yeah, I know
But
he's a Tatum sexual with us as well. He's got Tatum in his mouth a lot.
closet, yeah, honestly, coming in, coming out, all that stuff. So,
who is your on the flip side? Which deal do you think was an overpay and kind of like shooting for the stars and might not work out?
So I hate to really be a hater, so I just went crazy and found a bunch that I didn't particularly like. Duncan Robinson was the clearest to me. There were times where Duncan Robinson was not touching the court over the past few seasons. Mm-hmm. So I forget the number Detroit paid him, but it was like tens of millions of dollars. That could easily be the biggest overpay, in my opinion. Hardaway Jr., same type of deal, just an absolute non-factor at times. Granted, he was pretty good last playoffs, I think, for the Pistons, but the year before that for the Mavericks, just abysmal. Like past 2 or 3 seasons before that. Jaren Jackson Jr. maybe he's getting paid about $50 million a year, and he's got some pretty big holes in his game, in my opinion. Like it makes me a little nervous what Chet's contract is going to look like with Jaren Jackson having such a shaky handle and like sometimes a tougher time getting to the basket, just kind of looking lost in terms of like hustle plays. But don't get me wrong, he's a stretch four, tall, lengthy, arguably the best defender in the league some years. So there's something to be said. He's well worth that money, but with, like you said, this new tax situation, the Grizzlies might be looking at this contract down the line and be like, we offered him $8 million too much. So
yeah, $8 million is a big deal. That's
huge.
That's a role player. That's a veteran minimum type of player.
Keeps Jalen Wells around after his rookie contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that that Miles Turner deal was crazy. You're paying him $100 million. Yeah.
4 years, $100 million?
I don't think I don't like it.
Wow.
I think down the stretch he was, especially in that finals run, I think he had a couple good flashes, but I think he was like he could barely move out there on the court sometimes.
Him and Chet were like just kind of negating each other. It was sometimes bad bad offense, but like great defense on both their parts too. It was a weird series from them both, but I think Turner has the potential. But I'll let you finish your point.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, he's just like struggled to stay healthy sometimes, and he has flashes defensively, but I don't think he's a great defender. I think he like with Chet, like certain matchups, like he's gonna excel in. Like he's obviously much bigger than much heavier and can bully Chet around a little bit more, but I don't think he's that good defensively. And I don't think he's like a second option. Like at this point, he's a second option on this Milwaukee team, and I don't think because that's what they're shooting for, that's what they're paying him for, and I don't think he's really going to be that guy for them. You
See, I
disagree?
disagree a little bit. I think this is
You
a
think he's a
move
good
for the
second option
future.
on the team?
I think, well, there's no doubt about it. As of next year, that team, hot ass. Like, I can't hold you. That did you see who they've signed? It's like re-signed Kevin Porter, Torian Prince, Gary Harris, Gary
Yeah.
Trent. That team is going to be dookie. But 2 years from now, when maybe they sign Drew Holiday back, if you guys don't get Drew Holiday back, or they sign another big name to keep Giannis around, he's not going to be that guy. He's going to be in the paint. He's going to be what I think he's going to be is he's going to be that rim protector. He can still do that pretty well. I don't think he's going to be asked to be mobile. That's Giannis's job. Giannis is the best roving big in the league by country mile. Like that's what he does. He's extremely talented. So all they need Turner to do is just park his ass in the paint. For $25 million a year when they're contending, a guy that could score them like 16 points a game, shoots 38% three, 7 foot, going to grab you rebounds, going to hustle. I think it's going to be a good contract, but I'll be curious. We'll have to see who's right.
Was
I
he
think
was he
I think the
averaging
Bucks will be
6?
back.
I mean, he was averaging like 14 a game, so I don't think
Right.
that's terrible. I think I mean, it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
14 and 7 and you're getting $20 million. I think you can get that from a lot of guys off the bench.
Yeah.
Or a lot of starters at the center position. How do you think he really elevates this team? Like after like they get rid of Lillard, you think that he's going to elevate this team? Maybe not next year. I see what you're saying, but
Yeah.
if you get a few pieces around, I don't know who those pieces are for Milwaukee, but you think he's going to be a piece that they can rely on?
So there's just so much moving around right now that I think we both that team could change overnight, just like all the rest have. But absolutely, like you're saying, I'm kind of acknowledging this as a move down the road. Like I said, pretty sure it's like 4 years. So I think that's why they did it. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell they expect you to do with Giannis and Miles Turner alone.
Let me just put this out there. Brook Lopez averaged 13 and 5, and he's getting paid $9 million. So basically the same thing that another stretch five, another big that's going to play defense, another basically the same player, and he's getting paid $20 million less, basically.
He's like 36 now, and Miles Turner is like just getting to that 30 mark.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I forget Miles Turner's not that. It feels like he's been in the league forever, but
he just came in at like 20, I think. So yeah, he just feels like he's been here forever, but he's still on the younger side. So
yeah, but I think they could have got like a veteran piece and got the same amount of impact. But we'll see down the line. I think Miles Turner he surprised some people last year in the playoffs, and he had a few good moments, but I don't like the chucking three aspect of his game. I think he takes a lot of shots off the dribble that I wouldn't like seeing Miles Turner taking. Like your center should not be taking step back threes. I think that's a terrible shot. Like every time I will let you take a step back three if you're a center and just hope and pray that the odds are in my favor. But I think it's the same. It's essentially the same thing that they had with Brook Lopez. They just overpaid the hell out of him, and you hope that he's going to be a franchise cornerstone. I think it's crazy that he was on that Pacers team and he was in trade talks for so long, and then he has probably his best season with them, and he doesn't even try to cash in on that and get a big contract and stay with the Pacers for a long time. He just goes straight to Milwaukee.
I think the Pacers cheaped out was what the report was. He got a little bit more money from Milwaukee. I don't think the market was huge for him. Like you said, he had a pretty disappointing finals, and teams looked at that and probably used that as leverage. But Milwaukee, I think, kind of felt like they needed to almost replace, like you said, replace Brolo, as well as like kind of show Giannis we're serious about putting together a contending team. There's a guy that was just in the finals. So
Yeah, we'll see how that kind of front court dynamic works out with him and Giannis. I think it's interesting. I don't think they're getting really too much from anybody else on that team.
No, I agree.
This Milwaukee rebuild has been very interesting to watch. I think that move to kind of buy out Dame, it's an interesting one because you have a guy who's aging on $40 million a year. So you kind of space out that contract, but you still have a $20 million cap hit for the next like 3-4 years on that team.
Oh, I thought it was two.
Two?
Yeah. I thought
think they
the
spaced it
Dame
out longer.
contract was off the books. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So essentially what they did was just like, I think they extended it. Maybe it was 2 more years than what Dame already had on his contract, I think. So I think it was like 4 years in total that they're spacing out this like however $80 million or however much he was going to make because that guy was getting paid.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Like $60 million.
All right, let's talk about. We're going to stay on the center aspect, but we're going to go out west. We're going to go to LA. What do you think about this DeAndre Ayton move? How do you feel about this? Do you think this is the front court move that they needed to make that everybody was wishing that they made last year?
So yes, but no. Honestly, in my opinion, Mark Williams might be a little bit better, but Ayton, the potential is there. I mean, he has the potential to live up to his draft stock. He'll probably never have as good as an opportunity to do so again. He has the 2 best passers in the league outside of Jokic with LeBron and Luka. So the fact, I mean, if he doesn't, it's going to be very disappointing, and it's all going to be because of his lack of effort, and that's going to absolutely drive JJ mad, and it's going to be wonderful to see, I think, for both of us. So
yeah,
I don't feel
he
able
really
to go away about
bright
it.
under the lights, like in Phoenix.
Nope.
So I wonder how it's going to be in LA when the pressure is 10 times more and you're on TNT every single night at 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? Because everybody's watching Luka and LeBron.
Man, all the fans are threatening you and your family, and international fans are doing the same, and all the bronze sexuals. It'll be very interesting. I think he's going to absolutely buckle and fold. So
yeah, I thought he was excelling for his role in Portland. I thought he was really.
He wasn't being asked to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I still think like he was doing what he needed to do, and I think he was slowly getting like towards the end of the year or middle of the year, he was averaging like 20 points and getting 10 boards. Like he was doing really well, I think, for them, in my opinion.
I agree, but I think it had to do more with the vacuum. And I mean, he is a big guy and he is talented. I won't deny that. He is one of the more talented centers in the league, but I mean, the potential I feel like is also very obvious that there's more there. I think more points per game, more rebounds per game, maybe a stock more per game. Like it's effort, I think.
Yeah, it's very clearly a Luka Doncic center that they're making this move, not really like a LeBron center. LeBron center is more of a space the floor, shoot threes, stay in the corner, be in the dunker spot. Luka center is more pick and roll, rim rolling, get up in the rim. And I think that there's been a lot of talks about how the Lakers have handled this LeBron situation and Luka situation and how they're very clearly on the road of Luka's our guy and we're planning for the future. And it's not, I'm sorry, LeBron, but yes, you're 42 years old, you're 23 now. And at the end of the day, yes, you're LeBron James, but we have a future that we have to planned for, and we have Luka Doncic, one of the best young players in the whole league. So you kind of have to build around him. He's going to be the guy that's going to be the driving force of your team for years to come. But I think DeAndre Ayton, we'll see. I think he's okay again, like around the rim. I think he's very athletic, so I think that's going to be great. Those pick and rolls with Luka and him above the rim and pack and getting those dunks that we've seen. I think he's better than Jackson Hayes. I mean, you can't.
without a doubt.
It's an upgrade. So you were starting Jackson Hayes last year. Now he's coming off the bench. I think that's better for him. So we'll see what the Lakers do. I don't think they're going to be a top 3 team next year, though, in the West.
Maybe close. And I don't know. I hope they end up losing both. I could see them trying to play the game for both, try and appease both, and end up losing both in the process. Just end up trading Braun, getting something whacked back from Cleveland or Miami or somebody, and just end up biffing the Luka situation too. Maybe that's just me being wishful or something, but
no, I see what you mean.
that happen. Yeah, they have their hands full, man. They got Bronny, Luka. Now they have Ayton, Jackson Hayes with a no trade clause.
They're selling their stake in the team, so you got new owners. You got the Dodgers owners now.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, the team is changing. It's not just Jeannie Buss and LeBron sitting courtside talking about Happy International Women's Day anymore. I don't think this is LeBron's team as much as he thinks it is. All right, we're going to go back to the Knicks. We talked a little Jordan Clarkson earlier, but what do you think? Is he we're going to go back to New York for a second. Is Knicks added a little scoring punch off the bench. I think he's a little bit better than Deuce McBride. What do you think of the is he that bench spark that the Knicks have needed for the last 2 years?
I like it. I think he can win you a game. He's going to give you 30-some games. I mean, he's going to drop between like 12 and 30 points a game. You don't really know with Clarkson. So I do like the pickup. I do think they could really benefit from maybe one more addition, but I like what they got going on. I think they're in my front runners for the East next year, along with the Cavaliers and
Orlando.
I bounce Orlando back between that top tier and maybe the next tier with you guys, Atlanta, and
Miami.
Yeah. So
Detroit too. We keep forgetting about Detroit.
I don't know why I just overlooked Detroit.
We always do because we're not used to having them in this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Don't let Anthony Simons walk to Detroit or something. That'd be gross too. I think that pairing.
Detroit didn't even have Jaden Ivey, who I think was one of their top 3 players.
They're gonna be nice.
I'm a huge Jaden Ivey fan.
Their young guys are gonna get better this year. Ron Hollins could be a little bit better this year. He showed flashes last year. Yeah. Dude, their Thompson, Asar also freaking great. He just had a blood clot. So he was out for a lot of last season, but when he came back, by God, he was excellent. So,
but I think this Jordan Clarkson move, I think it really helps Brunson out of anybody.
I agree.
Brunson is going to have some time on the bench to be able to not just carry this whole team, and they're going to have somebody that can also carry the scoring load a little bit. And I think it's going to help Brunson when it comes down the stretch in playoff time. And we saw him very gassed in that Pacers series, especially towards the end, and he's just chucking shots. And it looks like he doesn't even have any legs underneath him. He's airballing game winners at the end. So I think that's the biggest thing is you give Brunson another guy to be able to get some minutes off the bench. And Deuce was very hit or miss. He's either taking over and he's hitting every mid-range shot. He's taking every 3, and he's a big crowd guy. But there were so many times that Deuce McBride was just playing himself off the court because he was just non-existent, and they had to bring Brunson in to play those minutes and take Deuce off there. So I think Jordan Clarkson, he's been the guy in Utah before. He's been one of their leading scorers. So I think you bring his little fashion aspect to New York too. I think he's gonna thrive, and he's gonna thrive in New York. His courtside or his fits walking into the runway, he's gonna be putting on his best fits in New York. So I think he's gonna be enjoying himself there in NYC.
I think
Do
Knicks
you have
fans
anything
will like.
left on Clarkson and the Knicks?
I think the Knicks will like him. I think the Knicks fans will like him. I think if they add a facilitator, they're gonna be looking really good. Because, like you said, this in my mind is also a move for Brunson. He needs somebody who can create their shot once he goes to the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Hart's a pretty good facilitator. Maybe he can really step into that role next year. But they can get a facilitator for the bench. I think they're going to be really sitting pretty. Um, I think that's about it. That's all I have to say on that stinky
Yeah, it's always
franchise.
going to be defense with that New York team. We'll see if they can,
Mhm.
if Mike Brown can fix that. So we're going to move back to the West. Denver, champs a couple years, 3 years ago now. You add Cam Johnson. You get rid of Michael Porter Jr. I love Cam Johnson. You add Valanciunas and Hardaway. Valanciunas doesn't even look like he might play in the NBA anymore. But what do you think about Denver and their addition of Cam Johnson and getting rid of MPJ, and you move off of that?
So it's weird because I shouldn't want Denver to be good, but I do really want Denver to be good.
Yeah, for
Um,
Jokic.
he's a really fun player to root for.
Hmm.
Also, Russ was there last year. Honestly, I'd like to see him go back. He was a huge catalyst for that team, especially when he was starting with Jokic. Their
He's
two-man
still a
game
free agent,
was
right?
great. He is. I'm not quite sure. He doesn't really have anywhere he's leaning right now. It
Hmm.
seems. I guess that's on the table. Maybe a homecoming to OKC. Who knows? But for the guys that Denver does have, Cam Johnson, I love that trade. I really like him. I think we all know he's extremely intelligent with the ball. He sees the floor very well. Somebody that Jokic is going to pair very well with. Bruce Brown, I think he's going to fit very well. Bruce Brown, I think he had some time with Bruce Brown.
Yeah, I forgot
Uh,
about Bruce Brown too. I didn't add him.
yeah. So I think those will be good wing additions, little addition by subtraction with Michael Porter Jr. shooting them out of games sometimes. As much as I do like Mike and his potential still, um, I do think the team got better. I do like the Valanciunas move as well. Hardaway, I don't really like. Valanciunas is also kind of whatever. He's getting older.
Yeah, very much so.
He's solid, but he's like you said, not even thinking about playing in the NBA, thinking about going to Greece. I don't even know how to pronounce the club, but
Yeah.
it's that type of deal with him. I think Denver's making the right moves, but I would have loved to have seen him get Kennard. I'd like to see him get maybe one more defensive minded player, and then I'll feel good about their offseason. Russ too. Bring back Russ. They love Russ.
Hmm.
So that's how I
I'm
feel about that. What about you, man? How do you
I'm a
think they
huge
get back
Cam
Russ?
Johnson fan. Um, Huge. I think he's really good young piece. I really liked him even in Phoenix back in the day. Um, Cam Johnson, I think he's a great 3-point shooter. I think he could play off the dribble too, get to that mid range. I think he's going to excel really well with Jamal Murray and be another pick and roll guy with Jokic that he can rely on. That it's not just a two-man game with Jokic and Jamal. That's their offense, and then just kicking it out to MPJ once they help. Like I think Cam Johnson can really stretch a defense because they know they can't just come off of Cam Johnson. He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. He has one of the best jump shots in the league. Really love watching him as a shooter myself, as I claim. So I think that team is going to be awesome next year. I love that addition. Bruce Brown, you get him for a good contract after you don't pay him for a few years, and he's a guy that's going to different teams and not really finding a role, or teams can't really start Bruce Brown. but now I think he's going to go to a better role back in Denver, and I think he's going to feel right back at home, and that the crowd loves him, the fan base loves him. So when you have that behind you, you end up excelling. So yeah, I hope Russ comes back to the league with them. But I think this just like lightens Jokic's load a little bit, and it makes life easier for him when you have another guy that can initiate offense and score off the ball too. So, and like you said, I think MPJ was, yeah, he's either on or he's off. He's either on fire or he's ice cold. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he had his moments where he would impact games, but I think Cam Johnson's going to be a little bit of a more steady player for them. Like they can rely on him more. And those injuries were kind of catching up to MPJ. So you kind of had to get off that after you already paid him a bunch of money. So I think it's a good move. They get a little bit. Is he younger than MPJ? They're about the same age. Do you
I
think?
think they're about the same age. Honestly, yeah. So
I think you get a good piece after you paid the hell out of MPJ and you send him to Brooklyn to die, and we'll see what Brooklyn does with that. But I think it's a really good move for the Nuggets. Do you think they are? What echelon do you put them in? Are they in that OKC echelon? Are they in the Houston echelon? What do you think?
well, OKC and Houston share that echelon. So yes, they are the top three teams in the West. It's Oklahoma City, Denver, as well as Houston. So
Okay.
absolutely, with the ball stopping, hopefully ending, they will be a much more free flowing offense, and I think they're going to have a little bit more space for Braun's extension too. Who's also going to step up and did step up last year very well. So they're going to have more reinforcements. That team's going to look really, really, really good. And Jokic is going to feel less pressure, like you said.
Yeah, like I think that was one of the best series of all the playoffs was you guys and Denver going to 7, and just the adjustments that both coaching staffs, even their new coach, I forget his name,
Wow.
Alderman.
Yeah, David Alderman.
Yeah, I think he did a really good
Was that
job with
his
this
name?
playoff run. Say that again?
I said, or was that his dad? I forget.
No, I
His
think it's
dad,
him.
I'm pretty sure, was a coach or a player.
I think it's David Alderman. I think that's his name.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best playoff series, and the way that OKC started throwing different bodies like Caruso and Dort and they're just like trying to wear down Jokic, and you saw in that game 7, like dude was getting exhausted, and OKC was just swarming him on defense and throwing so much at him, and I think Cam Johnson's going to be a because MPJ really was not having the best series. So I think they were able to kind of load up on Jokic a little bit more during that series. So I think Cam Johnson will be a good piece that kind of stretches that team out a little bit more. So, and he's an elite shooter.
Yep. And MPJ will actually get a couple of years to rehabilitate. So I think that'll be good for him.
Less pressure on him than what he had in Denver. Like he was playing through that shoulder injury.
Shoulder, back, for every year. He was expected to rush back and be a contributor. So he'll finally not have that pressure. I think Cam Johnson won't feel that pressure. So
Yeah, MPJ just it seems like can't get that injury bug off of him ever since he was coming out of high school. All right, let's go to Dallas. We're gonna talk a little bit of guards. They obviously Kyrie tore his ACL. He's gonna be out for a little bit. Bring in D'Angelo Russell, a guy who's been around the league a little bit. What do you think of that move? Do you think he's a good solution for the time being while Kyrie is out for this team?
No. You and Rob, for whatever reason, are absolutely dick munching one of the most mid rosters I have ever seen.
Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, you don't even have Kyrie coming back. He's saying that he's doubtful he's going to even make it back by the beginning of the playoffs. You have Anthony Davis, who is a good player, but does not play. Then you got young guys and vets. So and D'Lo, like you can't trust D'Lo to do anything at this point in his career. So more so, D'Lo is just gonna like surprise you. I think Rob, I think you just really overrate the impact Cooper's going to have in his first year, which is okay. Exactly. D'Lo's been loaded for 10 years now. Like, you can't expect him to do anything. But, yeah, no, this Dallas team will not make the playoffs. They're going to be hovering around that Sacramento range again.
Not going to make the playoffs?
No chance.
You're crazy.
No chance. They're going to be looking for another lottery pick next year. They don't want to be contending. That is a mid roster in 2025 and 2026. That is an all right roster.
I think we'll see Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag. I kind of think that that's going to be a good duo defensively. I think that's where they're going to excel. So I think D'Lo is going to be just kind of like obviously scoring bursts that you don't have with Kyrie, but I don't think obviously he's like Rob said, he's loading for 10 years now, and I don't think he's been living off of that Brooklyn highlight tape for forever. Like that's how he's gotten all these contracts, but it seems like every team that he's on, everybody's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Just taking all these stupid ass shots and stupid ass threes. As soon as he gets the ball, it's like he just looks to shoot every single time. Doesn't have any other button on his controller but shoot. That's it. So I don't agree with you in the fact that Dallas is not going to be in the playoffs, but I don't think that they're going to be what people think they are in like a actual contender, because I think people are kind of throwing them around in that when they have Kyrie and Cooper Flag and Anthony Davis, that they're going to be a team to watch out for in the West. But D'Angelo Russell, I don't know what you're doing when you're bringing him in. Like you can get the same amount of impact on the floor from basically any guard in the league at this point. So, yeah, he's just a guy that, he's a veteran presence. He's played with AD before, so there's a little bit of familiarity with that, and you hope that he can just be a veteran presence, but I don't know.
I'm having a difficult time deciding if they're going to get bounced by the Kings or the Pelicans next season. Maybe in the Warriors.
No, I don't know about all that. As long as D'Lo's not snitching on anybody for talking to other bitches, then I think he's gonna be all right.
Their guard defense is gonna be abysmal. Lively's good defensively too. PJ's all right.
One of the best defenses of all time.
What?
One of the best defensive players? Yeah, Anthony Davis.
Oh no! I said Lively. Yeah,
okay.
AD's up there. He all time crazy, but he is one of the better defenders all time. But at this point in his career, he has like a top 5 defensive player of the year impact, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
at his age, I think that's pretty good.
But that's also your number 1 guy at this point.
I think Cooper's.
I don't know.
I'm a huge Cooper Flag fan. I think he's going to fit in seamlessly in the NBA. I think he's going to average in that 16, 17 point per game next year, which I don't think is that crazy for him, but I think it's going to be one of the best impacts we've seen from a rookie in a very long time. I think he's just built for the NBA. You're not agreeing?
Absolutely not. Wembanyama just hit the league 2 years ago.
And they weren't even using him. He was playing like 20 minutes a game his first year. I think Cooper's going to be a actual starter and playing 30 minutes a night and getting boards and playing defense. I think he's just going to be impacting the game in so many different levels.
Still not going to be even better than Paolo and Dub.
Well, Paolo's better than Dub, so don't put them in the same
That's true. But both of them were raw their freshman year, so we'll see. Coop has a lot to do. I believe in him too. He's good. He's gonna be a good two-way player, but it's gonna be a huge vacuum of talent at the beginning of the season. He's gonna be asked to do a lot. See if he can deliver.
I think he's gonna be fine. His favorite player is Tatum, so I think he's gonna be a really good player in the league. As long as he just fits that career trajectory like Tatum, he's gonna be great.
He just has to shoot 50% from three next season. We'll see.
All right, the Hawks have been making a few moves. Jalen McDaniels, you get KP as well. Derek Jones Jr. What do you think about the Hawks? Are they kind of quietly building a very deep team down there in Atlanta?
Wow, I must have missed a few of those Hawks acquisitions. I'll have to apologize. I do think they're doing pretty good stuff. KP's a good ad. Obviously, they need defense. So KP was a good ad for them. Kennard is a good player. I don't think he's necessarily a good defender, but he's definitely a good shot creator, which any team can use, honestly. So I like that move, but it's all about hiding Trey on defense, and I think they might be a game above 500 this year. So no, but
I got that wrong. They got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They didn't get Jalen McDaniels. I'm sorry.
Alexander Walker is also a pretty good ad. So they got two guys who are going to make their own shots, and they're going to be off and on, but that'll be a good contribution.
Jalen Johnson. Let's look at the starting lineup. You got Trae Young, Jalen Johnson. You got Risha Shea, probably Porzingis if he's healthy at center. I'm trying to think of, and then you put in Nickeil Alexander-Walker with that team. I think that's a great defensive core to put around Trae Young, where he doesn't have to just hide. So I think that I'm a really big fan of Jalen Johnson too. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he impacts the game on so many different levels, and he's a guy that shows up on defense too. Oh, and Dyson Daniels. So you got a team that's going to be gritty. You know how Trae Young is, and he just loves the fans just going at him, and he kind of just eats that all up because people just make fun of him because he has a bad hairline and he's losing his hair, but he's one of the best assist guys, points, all of it. I think he's one of the best point guards, one of the most underrated point guards, other than what he does on defense. So I think Atlanta they're going to be pretty good next year. I think that they might be surprising top 6 seed in the East next year. I think that's where they're at. You don't look like you agree.
I could see. No, I'm just thinking about it. I mean, I think they're going to be like kind of in the same mix with the Celtics, with maybe not the Pacers. The Pacers might not be that good. Maybe the Heat. I think the Heat might be a little bit better. Pistons, I think, are better. Magic, I think, are better, but they'll be up there making some noise. Can't really think of who else would be making more noise than them. Definitely not the likes of like Chicago or something. So, yeah, you can see that.
All right. I don't want to talk about the Celtics, actually. I want to move into the NFL. I feel like we talked about the Celtics a little bit already. So, this core of Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys, I kind of look at them as like this is their last chance to kind of make this work before they have to move off of one of those 3 guys and kind of break up this core. So, do you think this is the last run for the Cowboys? They bring in Marty Schottenheimer. That's their fix of the off season. And that's all that Jerry Jones did. So, is this the last run for this Cowboys core of those 3?
So I think them boys are kicking a dead horse. I think this ship should have sailed. Like Dak, by God, send him to the nether realm. He's whatever. He is not the quarterback everybody makes him out to be. CD, obviously, stellar receiver.
Mhm.
Parsons, also excellent. I think one of those guys can maybe stay, but if I'm that franchise, I'm blowing it up. They just got to figure something out. By God, what are you doing, old man? Like, be serious. And it's just not, I feel for the likes of, like, I think Buff is a Cowboys fan. Like,
Yeah.
it's like the Broncos after they won a Super Bowl, but at least they won a Super Bowl. It's like, what are you guys doing? You just need to start drafting good young pieces and start building a core around it. Maybe they can continue like Bo Nix. We'll get to
I think it's
that
crazy
glorious
that
name.
I think it's crazy that Jerry Jones doesn't make more moves. He's literally it's the Cowboys. You play in one of the best stadiums. You play America's football team. You're on prime time almost every other
International
week.
reputation. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you are one of the biggest franchises in the NFL, and you don't use that to your advantage to try to lure guys in. Couldn't tell you the last big free agency move that the Cowboys did. Couldn't tell you. And they always have these guys, these big name guys. You think of Des Bryant. You think of guys like who's their tight end for Jason Witten, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. These guys that are good players, one of the top players in their position, like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and you still can't put a team around these guys to be able to compete more than just one and done in the playoffs every single year. And I I think Jerry Jones got to go. Obviously, he could still be his little owner position, but you need a general manager that's actually going to run it and not just. It's kind of like the whole Pat Riley situation. These guys, their time is gone. Like they've had good runs back in the '80s and '90s, and it's time to get some fresh eyes in there and some fresh bodies, and that team needs to change a lot. And I think if they don't do it this year, if they aren't competing with the Eagles in the NFC East in that like 10-11 game win season, you got to blow this team up. You
They
have
got to be
to.
better than Commanders.
Yeah.
They got to be better than Commanders, man.
Right.
I don't think they can do that.
No. The only reason they beat the Commanders last year was because Turpin had that crazy kick return, which that was one of the best games of the year last year. That was super fun to watch. I actually enjoyed watching that. But yeah, like you're saying, if they're not better than the Commanders, if they're not competing for a real chance at the NFC Championship game, then they need to just get rid of these guys. I think Dak is the first person to go. You have to hold on to CD because he's your best player. And Parsons, I feel like, has already kind of hinted at the fact that he might not want to be in Dallas anymore and that he's not really enjoying his time. So I think he's going to be the big move that they're going to have to get rid of because they're either going to have to pay the man or they're going to have to get rid of him. So it's one of the two. Did they already pay Parsons?
I think he got his contract last year, didn't he?
Let me look.
I don't want to speak.
No, he's still on his rookie deal.
No way.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, they're still haven't signed. Wait. Yeah, they still haven't signed him to a big contract.
Wow.
Which is why he obviously wants to get out of the Cowboys because they don't see the value in him.
Right.
This guy should be one of the highest paid defensive players in the league. It's actually insane that they're not paying him. All right, let's go over to your boy from Colorado, Travis Hunter. I don't know if you rep him like that. Do you like Colorado, the school itself?
Yeah, I'd be rocking with Colorado. I'm hoping not to just put all my personal info out there, but I might end up going to law school out there. Might end up moving there, maybe even soon. So
I love Boulder. I went to Boulder and went to the campus one time because one of my buddies' brothers were out there, and one of the most beautiful campuses ever. We were playing basketball and the mountains were just behind us. I'm like, this is the life. Like I could do this every single day.
I thought the same exact thing.
I could see why a lot of why obviously Dion and all these players are wanting to go out to Colorado because it's one of the best places to be at for sure.
Travis was saying he was wanting to stay. I was hoping maybe we'd trade up, but I knew that'd be a big ask.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I do think he's going to be transformative for the Jags. They've been
Yeah,
needing.
what impact do you think he's going to make this rookie year?
Man, I think everybody's expecting him to be stellar, and I think he is. I think you were kind of convincing me that he's going to see some offensive and defensive reps. I was definitely expecting a lot of offense from him. I'm expecting I'm expecting him to be an offensive catalyst. They lost Ingram, but now they got a couple good young receivers to pair with Lawrence. They got to keep building that Jags team, man. They build up, they lose some. They build up, they lose some. It's a lot of yo-yoing. I think it's not make or break for Trevor Lawrence right now. I think
it is for sure.
You think so? I think they're going to give like a year or two for sure for Travis to adjust with Trevor Lawrence before they're like, all right, you guys are going to have to perform or we're going to have to switch something around big time. Mm-hmm. I think they're a believer in Trevor's arm because I think that's why they've been willing to stick with it even through this like horrible rebuild because I think he could go to a different team and get a pretty good haul from him. It's just the specs are there. Delivery hasn't always been, but he's also had some injury issues. I think that Travis's season is going to rely a little bit on T-Law, but there's just so many factors that are going to come into play for that Jaguars team that I can't tell you that he's going to be like, yeah, Travis Hunter is going to be clear-cut rookie of the year, but I do think that he's going to be my favorite at this point before the season begins. So,
defensive or offensive rookie of the year? That's crazy that we're even asking that.
Right? I think offensive, yeah.
I think opposite. I think he's going to be great defensively. I think he's going to make his impact on the offensive side of the ball with gadget plays, but I think his main job is going to be playing corner, and I think that's what he did really I think that's what he's best at. I've been following him since high school, since he was like the number one recruit, and I think he's great. I think what makes him such a good wide receiver is because he plays corner and he knows how corners work and how they cover, and he can read defenses so well and read offenses so well. I think that's just where he excels, is just his athleticism, and his feel for the game is top notch. Think they're going to try to wear him out on defense so that he doesn't play too much offense. I think everybody has Travis Hunter on him is just going to run a go ball and just try to see if this guy is going to stand the test of time and just be able to, because the NFL season is, we hear about guys just on one side of the ball saying how taxing it is on your body. Could you imagine playing both sides of the ball, almost every play? It's different in college, obviously. NFL, you got some bigger boys and you're hitting a little bit harder. Those cracks are a little bit harder than in college, especially in the Big 10 or Big 12, I mean. So I think he's going to make a great impact defensively more than offense. I think he's going to be in certain packages. You're going to be excited when you see Travis Hunter on the offensive side. You're going to be really keen to what he's going to do, but I think he might open up for guys like Brian Thomas Jr. He's going to have a great year. He was one of my favorite wide receivers. I liked him a little bit more than Neighbors. I think Neighbors was fun, but I think Brian Thomas is just insane athletically, and that catch against the Dolphins last year where T-Law just threw him open, that was insane. That was one of my favorite plays of last year. So I think it is make or break for Trevor. I think, like you said, they might have, maybe it's not make or break this year, but he's towards the end of if you're not going to make this happen in this wide open AFC South with you play in one of the worst divisions in football, you have a chance. Every team in that division has a chance to go win it. So if you don't go and make a playoff run, We traded up to go get one of what people might think is the best player in the draft. Like it's make or break. That's what makes me think is just how like all in they've gone to try to get him all the pieces. I think Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, you got Hunter, you got Brian Thomas. This team is defensively, they're not bad either. They got some really good defensive line and linebackers. And now you put Travis in that corner position. I think they're going to be fun. I think you're going to see them like back in the day in those 2017, 2018 years, or maybe it was a little bit before that when they were competing with Brady and you had Blake Bortles on the team. I think we're looking at that. I think we're going to look at a revived Jacksonville Jaguars team next year. And I really like watching Trevor Lawrence ever since he was in Clemson. I've always rooted for the guy. I think he's obviously a stud, but it's make or break for them this year. I think so.
Yeah, their run game just can't be bottom 5 in yards per carry. That's the only caveat. So if their run game can actually show up, I think they'll make some noise.
They have to rely on Tank Bigsby. I know you had a very high draft pick on Travis Etienne, and you want to bring him in because of that Trevor Lawrence friendship or relationship that they had at Clemson. But I think Tank Bigsby is amazing, and you use more Travis Etienne in that third down back and that kind of also another wide receiver on the field almost. So
it's really hurting them last season.
I might go catch a Jacksonville game. Not gonna lie, if they have a good matchup, I might go see one.
Doesn't pop out.
Duval, but they're not going to be what we're going to talk about next. Is a contender in the AFC. Yeah. So, do you think Patty Mahomes is going to have his like? I guess it's like a bounce back here. You lose in the Super Bowl. Is he going to kind of just take over the NFL next year, and we're not going to be talking about this team struggling offensively? Do you think the Chiefs are going to be dethroned, or do you think they're going to come back with a vengeance next year?
I don't know, man. He's got to be the best. He's got to be the best quarterback in his division. It's a tough ask.
Yeah, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got absolutely nothing to compete with in Las Vegas, as one would expect. You got Herbert, you got Bo Nix. So these are two young studs with some fucking cannons for arms. So Patrick Mahomes is not the only big arm in the AFC. Both those guys have defenses. Both those guys are gaining weapons. You know, I think the Chiefs are really going to have to compete for even their own division next year. And then the Bills and the Ravens have been stacking on. I think Mahomes is going to have to show why he's called the best in the league, not just get carried by the referees. So it's going to be a tough ask. But I think the Chiefs will still play well.
You think they'll represent the AFC in the Super Bowl?
Nope.
Very clear cut.
Nope.
No, from you.
Nope. They'll be up there. They'll be in the mix, but they will not be representing the AFC next year.
I think it changes in the playoffs, and I think Andy Reid, like, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL for a reason. I think that playoff time, and it's more Andy Reid than it is Mahomes sometimes. I think they give Mahomes so much credit, but Andy Reid is just dialing up great plays and coaching adjustments, and they're kind of on the same page. I see that, but Andy Reid, I think he excels and outcoaches a lot of these, like Harbaugh and what's his name in Buffalo. What's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
I forget his name.
I immediately thought Dan Campbell. I thought you were going to say Detroit. Because I was going to say, I wasn't even talking about Detroit.
McDermott.
Doug McDermott. Or Doug McDermott. Definitely
Sean
not that
McDermott.
either. Sean, yeah. Jeez.
But I think next year, I think the Bills are going to come out of the AFC. I think Josh Allen is going to have another MVP season next year. I think it's just it's about time that they go out there and they dethrone the Chiefs. I don't think that it can be 4 years in a row. It's kind of crazy.
AFC's a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Or else I suspect it's going to be – I think it's going to be tough conference next year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think both of our teams are going to be representing in the wild card, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
I like that take.
I put a little comment in TJ and Buff's show earlier about Drake May's going to be starting a playoff game this year. I think this team's going to be very good.
Should I be betting on that, or is this the wrong show?
Sprinkle a little on there. I'm not like
So.
100% confident, but sprinkle a little bit.
Yes, they must be seeing some videos or something.
But Lamar and the Ravens, hopefully they can put it together this year, and Mark Jackson doesn't drop a 2-point conversion to send them to tie the game.
That's all it could have been. That's all that could have been the difference.
Lamar's my favorite quarterback in the whole league, and he has been since he was in Louisville. And just time in and time out, the cards aren't in his favor, man.
Yeah.
It's just like it's not written for him yet. So
nope.
Hopefully one of these days, either Josh or Lamar will be able to dethrone those Chiefs, because they keep on outplaying them. And down the stretch, I think crunch time is where that Chiefs team just excels, and they ended up like what I was talking about with Andy Reid, and they just are one step ahead of everybody when it comes to crunch time and winning games. All right, I think that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week. Actually, I won't be back next week. It's my birthday. So turning 24, getting old as fuck. But that's gonna wrap it up. Me and Josh, nice little duo today. I enjoyed that. We covered all the big NBA moves and talked a little NFL, but hope you guys enjoyed the show today. And subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Glad to be back. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out. See you guys in a couple weeks, guys.
Peace.